I just find it so insulting. This, like, we're the party of joy. Republicans are weird. They're weird that they care about the economy. They're weird that they're worried about the border. They're weird that they're worried about national security. They're weird that they worry about inflation. Like, what are you talking about? Like, any average American living in this country right now is worried about all of these things in a really normal way, and that doesn't make them weird. Can Democrats have anyone in leadership like Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Vice President Harris that is not from the Bay Area or New York City? Or Governor Walz doesn't count. Like, he is not a real person that had any kind of national name up until 15 minutes ago. And he was not someone that was like making an impact in major parts of leadership. They called him out of Minnesota because they needed someone who could wear a camo hat and pretend like socialism wrapped in a camo hat is something we can all digest. But it's like they do not relate to people in the middle of the country.
All right, guys, here we are. Hours. It's counting down. I'm so excited. This is the big night. I think this might be the only time we see them on stage. I know Donald Trump is ready to go. Kamala Harris apparently prepared. We'll get to that in just a second. It is debate night in America. This is it. The first time they will have ever met. So big, so big. Meghan McCain is here with us. And by the way, we are going live tonight for the debate. Tune in here. Plus, we'll have analysis, take your questions in the YouTube chat after the debate. So watch it here. Let me know what you think. We'll talk about your questions afterwards. Couple housekeeping issues to get to before. I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, Bank on Yourself, because we have been told for a long time that the only way to prepare for retirement is through government-funded ways, right? So an IRA, a 401k, not so much. There is a guaranteed, predictable retirement income stream that you can have. Your plan doesn't go backwards when the market tumbles. It's tax-free retirement income. You'll know what your tax rate will be. 0, by the way, under current law. It protects you from the coming tax tsunami. You get peace of mind. And best reason of all, you know the minimum guaranteed value of your retirement savings. Here's the cool thing. You can get a free report with details on the Bank on Yourself strategy, which is totally different than all of those IRA, 401k government run things that dictate when you can withdraw money, how much, et cetera, et cetera. Totally game-changing strategy to retirement. If you go to the bankonyourself.com/Spicer, bankonyourself.com/Spicer, you get this free report, a strategy with predictability, and you get to control the gains. Check it out now. All right. Debate strategy tonight. What is Kamala Harris doing to prepare? Let me show you.
She has closely studied the former president's past 6 debate performances. She's also been sort of entrenched in these briefing papers going over the former president's past comments, as well as the ways that he has insulted her, so she can be prepared to respond to that. She's engaged in these mock debates with a stand-in for the former president, and she's had conversations with Hillary Clinton and President Biden, who both extensively have knowledge of debating the former president.
All right. That's her debate strategy. Unbelievable. It's crazy what she is doing. I think she's going to come with her 5 lines. It's going to look staged. I think Trump is going to run circles around her. We'll obviously break all of this down after the debate. Like I said, we will be going live. You do not want to miss this. Before I do that, I want to tell you about a really good guy, because we're going to hear a lot tonight, and I don't want to forget about the amazing work that Leo Grillo is doing at Delta Rescue. If you go to deltarescue.org, you can see it. You'll see the work. You can see some of the history, some of the great projects that they're undertaking. And if you're a dog lover or an animal lover or a rescuer of pets, this will so resonate with you. It all started with one Doberman that Leo found, and he has now made it a lifelong mission to take care of animals that have been abused, neglected, abandoned. They get the veterinary care, the nutritional care that they need. It's amazing what this sanctuary in California has become. It is just mind-boggling. Take a look at it. Go to the videos. Go to deltarescue.org. Check out the work that they're doing. Please consider a contribution. $50, $100, $1,000, whatever you can do. But more importantly, when you're on deltarescue.org, go to the estate planning kit and just think about it. If you're an animal lover, if you're a rescuer, pray on this idea of making your legacy, your will and testament, including Delta Rescue, right? So that this mission that Leo Grillo has started can go on for generations and decades to go. Thank you for your consideration. DeltaRescue.org is the place that I urge you to check out. All right, without further ado, I want to bring in the host of the Citizen McCain podcast, Meghan McCain. Hey, Meghan, it's debate day. You ready to go?
Okay, so please don't laugh at me, but I just found out it starts at 9:00 at night, and I'm like, gosh, why is it everything so late?
I'll tell you, I did something I don't do. I went out last night. I went to this premiere of this Daily Wire film down in Nashville. I'm dragging. I don't go out. I don't do anything. I'm in bed by 9:00. And so like, I want these debates. I don't like Monday Night Football. I don't like debates at night. Convention speeches.
The convention killed me.
If the West Coast wasn't so crazy, I'd move out there because I don't want to stay up past 9. And I think that like, I'd rather wake up early, get the highlights of the debate, but I have to watch it. And then I got to do post-debate stuff. But I'm with you. Like, I wish we could move these things up.
Well, I just feel like Americans have shit to do. Sorry to swear on your show, but it's just like, we all have to get up. Most people have like jobs and kids or, jobs and lives and school and whatever. And I'm just like, gosh, these things take so long. And I'm weirdly, I don't know about you, but I feel sort of fatigued with the election now. Like, I'm really ready for it to like sort of push towards the end. I feel like this has been like the 9,000 year election. I was talking with a friend this morning and she was like, I'm still processing the fact that it's not Joe Biden and that it's Vice President Harris. And I know nothing about her. And
and that's why tonight, but it's weird because I don't even know the right analogy that now that we're talking about this, but I was looking at the thing today. I'm like, okay, 57 days to go. Like, I love this stuff. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, I actually like, I get bummed out in November, like late after, I'm like, what do we do? Thanksgiving. Okay. Christmas. But like, I'm excited and I know why people are fatigued. I get that. But if you're like, I love the machinations. I love, the statistics, how many people are out, how many field offices have been open, how many doors have been knocked. Like, to me, this is the fun part. Mm-hmm. And so I get excited when this happens. I'm actually, most debates, I've been fairly, clear for a while that debates don't matter. But tonight's, it's like the I before E except after, whatever that, my spelling sucks too, in case people don't know that. But it's that exception to the rule. Tonight is going to matter. And because of what you said a moment ago, there's so many people that still have no clue who Kamala Harris is, that they're tuning in tonight to say, all right, I'm willing to give her a look, or I've heard a lot about her and I want to see if there's anything there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And what I do know, what I keep hearing alarms me. I mean, just this Axios report, or I think it was Axios that just came out. Alex Thompson was tweeting about it, that Vice President Harris is for government-funded transition surgery for prisoners. We're talking about the most radical of positions.
Well, let me see if I can pull that up right now. I want to play what you're talking about because it was CNN's K-File, Andrew Kaczynski. He played it last night based on some previous statements that she had said. And let's pull it up so everyone can see what we're talking about.
Kamala Harris was trying to get to the left of Bernie Sanders. She was trying to get to the left of Elizabeth Warren. And you really see that in a lot of these answers. And I want to walk our viewers through a little bit of what she said. Let's just take immigration and look at what she said here. She said on immigration, she made this open-ended pledge to end immigrant detention. She said she supported taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She also said she supported
taxpayer-funded gender transition surgeries for detained migrants. She actually said she supported that.
She both wrote and answered in the affirmative when she was asked this. Oh. And she said she also supported it for federal prisoners. Now, she also pledged to slash immigration detention by 50%, close all family and private facilities, and decrease funding for ICE, and then the end ICE detainers with local law enforcement.
I mean, these are things that, it would be hard to think that you would come up with taxpayer funding gender transitions for detained migrants. And yet this, as you say, written and verbally.
All right, Megan, here's the thing.
Oh, yeah.
Aaron Burnett is shocked, right? When you shock a CNN host, Aaron Burnett's like, you actually have this in writing and in video. And he's like, yeah. She's like, oh, crap. I don't know how we get around this, because they've been able to excuse a lot of stuff. I almost feel like she was literally like, okay, can we get rid of, like, maybe she misspelled it. Maybe she checked the wrong box. And Kaczynski's like, no, we got video too.
Yeah, she seems almost overwhelmed by that, because I think, you only have to have like 3 brain cells to imagine how unpopular that would be with the vast majority of the American public, short of like the absolute most radical, like 5% of Americans. And with all of this, my biggest fear with her, I mean, I have a few big fears with her, but everything is just write a check. We have endless money, bankrupt everyone forever, and we can just pay for everything, even the most absurd things like gender transformation care. Excuse me, I'm saying it wrong. Transgender care for illegal migrants in prisons. I don't know. It's so ridiculous. I don't know. But it's like, and I was thinking, I actually read this interview with James Carville this morning, who was talking about how damaging 2020 was to Democrats, because everyone was trying to out extreme each other, like defund the police, get rid of ICE, just the most extreme stances, and it's still haunting them. And I think that's who she is. I don't think that. Go ahead. Sorry.
No. So it's fascinating though, because I was intrigued the angle that you just went with, which is the fiscal part. Number one, and I want to go down this rabbit hole for a second, because I feel like Republicans have lost the fiscal mantle. But number two is, I would have bet money prior to you saying that you would have talked about the culture piece of this, that this is so ideologically leftist from where the vast majority, and so just explain to me, because I'm fascinated by the you went fiscal first.
I think it's because she came out recently with a tax, like on her website, talking about how she wants to add 40% tax hike for the American public in her new, mandate that just came out on her website. And I still fear like the secret socialism of the Democratic Party. And obviously the culture stuff is wildly alarming. I don't think that there's even like Gavin Newsom would agree to like pass a bill where like transgender care for illegal migrants is something that would be passed, because it's like deeply irrational. I really am very concerned. I think it's because it hits so close to home for me and so many people. I have really close friends who are really struggling. I said this on my show. I have a friend who could not take a summer vacation this summer because of the price of groceries and gas this past year. They just can't do it. They have 4 kids and it was just too much. And I just don't think Democrats fully grasp how much, and they work. It's like a normal, like middle class family. Like, we're not talking about someone who's like living on the poverty line. And I don't think Democrats understand how much people are suffering. And that's the thing it's not the thing that scares me the most, but it's like 50% of what scares me about her.
All right, folks, hate to interrupt this conversation, but if you have your conversation interrupted by a letter, a knock on the door, a phone call from the IRS, I have the solution for you. Talk to my friends at Tax Network USA. Here's the thing. When Democrats were in control of Congress, they added, 50,000 new IRS agents. And those folks are not sitting around Washington twiddling their thumbs. They are going after people who owe $5,000, $10,000, $1 million in back taxes, in unpaid taxes. It could be personal, it could be business. They don't care. They will turn your life upside down to get whatever they can get out of you. You should not engage with the IRS without professional help. I think the best people in the business are the folks at Tax Network USA. And if you go to tnusa.com/Spicer, /Sean Spicer, it's the full name, this one. tnusa.com/Sean Spicer. You can get the help that you need. 1-800-245-6000 if you want to call them. But do not engage with the IRS without professional help. I think these guys are the best in the business. They've recovered over $1 billion for their clients. The IRS means business, and the folks at Tax Network USA have the expertise and the professionalism to be your advocate. Call them, reach out to them today if you get contacted by the IRS. Now back to the conversation. I don't know what scares me the most. And there's a lot of I feel like it's a car crash of things that scare me. Because if I had to really articulate it, I would say I truly believe that she fundamentally wants to change the fabric of the country. And I don't mean to sound alarmist, but I think that the stuff that she articulated in those things is really what she believes. That she wants an open border, that she wants to fund all this stuff, that she would drive us into debt. And that's like fundamentally, I think that it's irrecoverable for the country, the direction that she would go in. And that's to me, I don't think after 4 years of Kamala Harris, you wake up and go, all right, let's get the U.S. back on track. I think that you're doing such a far left veer that I don't know how you course correct after that.
One of the things that's making me feel better is with this New York Times poll that just came out over the weekend, showing that people they feel the way I feel, that just like saying joy and vibes is not a policy. And because she's not defining herself, Trump is successfully defining her as a radical, which I believe she is. But I think what fascinates me about Democrats, and this is like, I was going to say a more R-rated word, but I can't say it because it's a family show. But they are such cowards in the sense that, like, I won't do an interview. I'm too precious. I can't do interviews. I can't do debates. Like, I just it's vibes, you guys, and it's joy. It's ridiculous, and it's deeply insulting. There's a lot of people that like joy, like they're like, go to hell. I cannot pay for groceries in the same way that I used to. I cannot buy a house. I cannot do whatever. And they're just like trying to say that she had absolutely nothing to do with the past 4 years of the disastrous Biden administration. And we should just go on the fact that she like hired a football coach to be her VP. It is, I find it like so insulting to my intelligence. And I'm glad that polling showed that a lot of Americans are feeling the same way.
I hope they do. I mean, to your point, I feel like it's funny. I was listening to someone make a comment this morning, and they were like, and I want to get into the debate, so just to be clear on this. And someone said, well, I know that Trump's going to try to tie her to this administration, but how many VPs have been that consequential? And I'm like, okay, fair enough point. But they from the jump, they literally said it's the Biden-Harris administration, right? They branded it as a codependent presidency. And now she wants to say, oh, I couldn't have done that much. And it's like, wait a second. Before you were running, before you guys pushed out Joe Biden, you guys were partners. You did everything together. You were the last person in the room. And then as soon as you became president, you're like, I don't even know this Biden guy. I mean, I met him.
Yeah.
It's like, I don't know where he came from. I'm like, I was trying to get some things done, and he kept getting in the way.
Yeah, and that's their attitude. And again, I just find it ridiculous. And I find it's like Democrats got used to running their candidates from the basement with Biden during COVID, and they like can't run a real campaign. And I think it's really hurting them. And I think the fact that I still don't know like anything new about Vice President Harris, and she refuses to give an interview except with Dana Bash, where she's asked like, what it was like seeing her niece watch. It's a ridiculous interview, ridiculously missed opportunity. And I think it's going to hurt. I really do think it's hurting her. I don't know. I still think Trump right this second. I still think Trump's going to win.
Oh yeah. Well, okay. So let's get into tonight. What if Donald Trump called you and said, Meghan, you've been a skeptic, a critic. Mm-hmm. What do I need to do tonight to make the case to a lot of people who are probably on the fence?
I think he really has to not. He just has to like behave, as insane as that sounds. He just has to act normal and statesmanly and like a president, and really call her out on all of her, ridiculous policies. Just what K-File just put on CNN. I also think that I liked JD Vance before he was a VP pick, and there's a lot of things JD Vance is doing, and I don't know how you feel about him. It's not really relevant, but I used to be a fan. I'm not anymore. And I think it's a sort of amalgamation of the cat lady stuff, the single cat lady stuff, this feeling of just like very anti-woman in the party. I'm very upset that he's still continuing to do an interview with Tucker Carlson, despite the fact that Tucker Carlson, just did this like slanderous interview with this historian claiming that Winston Churchill was the worst person in World War II. And if anyone that hasn't seen it, just Google it. It's all over the internet. And I just think we cannot keep attaching ourselves in spaces like this, because we don't have the luxury of not having center independent people, suburban women. Like there's all these demographics we need that I don't understand why JD Vance in particular seems to like purposely isolate ourselves from it. It's very confusing for me.
Let's leave JD aside. I am a fan of JD, and I think I think we can go through some of the issues at some point. Because I'm not sure we see eye to eye on that, but I want to get back to Trump for a second and the debate tonight, because I get it, right? And I've talked to him about it. I've told people that like I think he understands this tonight. And there's this yin and yang though. She's coming. I guarantee they've been sitting in this room in Pittsburgh, like writing lines on a whiteboard for Kamala Harris to say, and she's going to walk in and it's going to be something about a dictator, something about no one above the law, something about my reproductive rights, like keep your laws off my body. I mean, they've been wargaming this for 5 days now, and I think they're going to come out and just try to figure out what lands with him. And she's just going to keep using one-liners to see what he says. Should he not take the bait and just say, like, I think what he did with Biden was let a lot of it fall and let Biden kind of speak. It's in his nature to push back. And so where's that balance between him saying that's completely not true, or, you know, you advocated for these policies? When I talk to folks on the Trump campaign in the last 24, 48 hours, they've really dug in on her record as DA and AG in California. And I'll be intrigued to see if they really go after her on crime and sort of safety issues.
I would attach her to the border crisis because she was the border czar, no matter how much, people on CNN, MSNBC want to lie about that. I think, I thought he was actually brilliant in his debate with President Biden because he clearly has an instinct. He's a showman, and his instinct was correct that, like, this man is a disaster and the American public can see it. And when he said the line of, like, I don't think he knows where he is, or I don't think he knows what he said, I was like, this is completely over.
It's authentic, and he does stuff like it's all. Remember the thing that he said against Hillary, and even when he did the Rosie O'Donnell thing when he was asked in that first debate in Cleveland by Megyn Kelly, and he said, just Rosie O'Donnell. Mm. And it was like, it comes across as natural and funny, whereas I think when Kamala does stuff and you look at her lines, they look rehearsed.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is. Remember that, like, I was that little girl, and then they had T-shirts ready for whatever, like, right after. And the other thing is, she's going to really try to do the, like, 2015 girl boss stuff that really doesn't land. It didn't land then, but it's like 10 years later, it's really even more stale than it was then. And I think she's going to try and be, like I said, like, there's going to be some kind of woman line in there, and I just think he should ignore it.
Okay, and so that obviously the gender gap is huge, but what could he maybe say to women in particular to maybe say, all right, I don't like everything he said or done, but I want to have a safer family and community for my kids, myself. I own a small business. I want that to succeed. Like, what is it that might resonate with people to give them reassurance that, all right, I'll stick with Trump or I'll vote for him this time?
I would say, I feel your pain, like the way Bill Clinton did. And I would say the Republican or Democrats are selling you a load of baloney, saying that it's joy and vibes and everything is amazing. And don't you just want to be part of this, girl revolution with Kamala Harris, and Democrats are just so cool. The country is a mess. And she is a part of why it's a mess. And she's going to lead you down a road of it being more of a mess. And I think, I don't speak for all women, obviously, but I think specifically speaking about the economy and the border, meat and potatoes issues, and like how we're going to send our kids to college and all these things. I just think he really needs to point out their, like I said, their absolute horrible spin that everything is amazing. Because I find it so insulting. I don't know about you. I just find it so insulting. This, like, we're the party of joy. Republicans are weird. They're weird that they care about the economy. They're weird that they're worried about the border. They're weird that they're worried about national security. They're weird that they worry about inflation. Like, what are you talking about? Like, any average American living in this country right now is worried about all of these things in a really normal way, and that doesn't make them weird. So
also going back to that clip, I mean, she's the one who said, audio and written, as Kaczynski says, about giving transgender illegals paid. I mean, I'm like, that to me, I don't even know that's weird. That's just stupid and irresponsible. But I don't know why they get away with, like, these monikers. And I it's funny because I feel like sometimes we don't fight back enough.
Yeah, I agree.
And it's like, but the balance is what some people have a problem with. Like, for too long, I think that we've tried to be above the fray. We're better than them. We don't fight like them. We don't call names. And then Trump comes along and it's like, well, that's too much, right? It's like the porridge and the Three Little Bears. It's like, well, that one was too cold. That one's too hot. And I don't know. I feel like to some degree we do need to fight a little bit more.
Oh, I agree. I mean, I agree, especially at this point, because I do think they fight so dirty. And I there's just this, like, level of elitism where I was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, can Democrats have anyone in leadership like Hakeem Jeffries, Nancy Pelosi, Vice President Harris that is not from the Bay Area or New York City? Like, and Governor Walz, doesn't count. Like, he is not a real person that had any kind of national name up until 15 minutes ago. And he was not someone that was like making an impact in major parts of leadership. They called him out of Minnesota because they needed someone who could wear a camo hat and pretend like socialism wrapped in a camo hat is something we can all digest. But it's like, they do not relate to people in the middle of the country. I was home in Arizona over the summer and I was like, anybody that thinks this isn't just like Trump stuff everywhere and Trump isn't going to easily win this state hasn't been there. And I just feel like there is this level of elitism, especially cultural elitism on the left, that is very easy to hit them on. And I don't think we hit them hard enough on it.
By the way, Arizona right now, I was looking this up ahead of this. It's like 1.6 Trump's up in the Real Clear Politics average in Arizona. I got to feel like
I think
if he doesn't win Arizona, I don't see how we win. I mean, just because that to me, with immigration and everything else, has to be a Trump state. What's the vibe there? Speaking of vibes, on the ground.
I mean, when I was home, just like anecdotally, obviously I know a lot of like, not thrilled Trump people who aren't like, the normal Trump supporters. But the border is really scaring them. And again, it's normal stuff. It's the freaking economy. And I know I'm beating a dead horse with this, but my friends from home as a generalization, like they don't make tons of money. They're normal people and they've just been hurt so badly by the Biden years in so many different ways. And they feel really unheard. And even some of my friends who are like, sometimes I feel like some of my friends are like sheepish, like I'm voting for Trump, Megan. And some of my girlfriends are just like, I don't have any other option. This is my only option. He's the only person put in front of me that is not going to like, tax me 40% more and like completely open the borders and make America a reckless place. And I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of people in Arizona like that.
I got to believe in Arizona that the border is got to be number 1, 2, 3 on the issue.
Yes.
Like I can't imagine. I see enough of it in Virginia in terms of the news and the consequences of fentanyl and crime or whatever. Arizona, I feel like it's in your front yard every day.
Yeah, it really is. And I also feel like I feel unheard and people are really sick of like, being told that like they're inhumane or they don't care about immigrants in any way if they're worried about the border. And I think Democrats have also completely gotten out over their skis with their messaging on that. It's been interesting also to see Ruben Gallego, the Senate candidate running against Kerry, like moderate more on it. Cause I think even he's like smart enough to know he can't win if he's like open borders, amnesty for everyone. And I think it's just a lose-lose.
So I know Elon put out a tweet earlier. Look, let me give you my 2 cents on immigration and either tell me I'm off base or whatever. I believe that if you believe in a rule of law, if you believe in not just not a closed border, I'm for immigration. I believe in a system where we allow people to apply and that you follow the rules and you come to the country. We're a great country because of it. And this notion that you're either for immigration or not is ridiculous. It's for legal immigration or not. But I've got to believe that if you're a Democrat, you know how to, quote, close the border, right? And make it tough to get into this country and make people and encourage them to follow the law to come through properly. Mm-hmm. The Democrats have chosen not to do that. They've made it very clear. You come into this country however you want, and then we'll take care of you. We'll give you a cell phone, a hotel room. We'll give you all these free gifts. You get all sorts of nice, you get hotel points and probably a free trip, on vacation. They know what they're doing. And I can't help but believe that when you do that and you couple it with free licenses, a pathway to citizenship guaranteed, et cetera, that you know what you're doing. You know that you are creating new Democratic voters. Do the people of Arizona see it that way? Or is this just, do they say, wow, this is ineptitude? Because I don't think it's ineptitude. I don't think that the Democrats don't know how to do it. They've chosen not to do it.
Well, there's actually data that shows that it's not just people of Arizona, but specifically Hispanic people in Arizona agree with you, because there's a feeling of we did this correctly. We came here through the proper channels and we want to live the American dream and we love America. And again, I too am the more the merrier if you come through the proper channels and you're not coming here illegally. And, I anyone who has lived in a border state knows how integrally important immigration is to the infrastructure of the state. But that doesn't mean open borders, like you said, that the free everything, free healthcare, free housing, free whatever. I mean, you see what it's done to New York City with the like free housing and the hotels in Midtown. It's cataclysmic. And I think Democrats, it's hilarious to me sometimes when I see pundits on the left talking about the Hispanic vote like it's a monolith. And I was like, you are hard pressed to find any Hispanic person in Arizona that is going to be for that policy, because they know the negative ramifications for it, and they aren't like that. They don't want to be like that. So I think Democrats underestimate and stereotype a lot of not just Hispanic voters, but minority voters in general by making them a monolith, and they do it at their own peril.
I will be really interested. I was at the RNC for quite some time, and we studied this whole, how do we increase minority growth in the party, and not for the sake of it. The idea was, I think for a lot of us, we look at the principles of conservatism and the principles of the Republican Party and say, we align generally with a lot of the traits in your community. And I agree with you. It's not a monolithic thing. You don't go, well, you're Hispanic, therefore you should do this. But like a lot of groups, there are traits, and you say, well, this should work with this group or not. The funny thing about it is that I think the way that Trump approached this was so unorthodox. And he basically said, hey, look, I'm going to fight for these 5 things. I think that you're with me on that. I'm not going to pander to you. And he actually did better than a lot of previous Republicans, because I think it resonated with them. Who said, we followed the law. We work hard. We started a business. We go to church. We raise our family. We don't want to be pandered to. We want a fair shake. We want a system like maybe they have. They come from a country that was ruled by a dictator or something like that. And so they want rule of law. But they don't want people to come in and be rewarded for breaking the law or not working hard. And I think that the party, because of the extremism of the Democrats that you're talking about, it might actually see I think that there's going to be an uptick, especially in male Hispanics, male blacks this year, probably on the younger side. But I think that like they've gone too far.
Well, can I give you my analysis just from anecdotal experiences, watching polls, watching data? As a generalization, Hispanic people are more religious and more family oriented. And I think even, just friends in my life who are 2nd or 3rd generation Mexicans, they came here, or even 1st generation Mexicans, they came to Arizona, they came to the Southwest because they love the American dream and they want to be a part of it. And the messaging from Democrats is that America is like a crap hole that has no redeeming qualities. That's been their message for like the past 8 years, that America is a hellscape that has no redeeming qualities. I don't believe any immigrant coming here that is leaving any kind of socialist country, communist country, or a country that just isn't giving them the opportunities that they have here believes that. And they don't want to be
right.
They don't want to be that. And the other thing with the culture stuff, which is fascinating to me, is I think all these things can be traced back to Latin X, which is something that was always in my teleprompter when I worked at ABC. And I refused to say it because I said, I don't know one Hispanic person that uses this term. This is a made up term that someone in Manhattan or San Francisco came up to say it. There is gender, is part of the Hispanic language, part of the Spanish language.
That's
so the idea that you're going to remove that, and that you should not be okay with being a man or being a woman. I mean, they have misread so much, and I just find it wildly entertaining.
By the way, you bring up ABC. You've worked at a lot of networks.
Yes. I
have never seen, maybe I'm just getting too old and curmudgeon-y and like get off my lawn, but I feel like I have not seen.
You don't look that old. I don't know how old you are, but
it's all makeup. It's makeup and moisturizer. But I feel like this cycle, the gaslighting and the bias of the media is at a level that I've never experienced. I mean, you mentioned Tim Walz, but like the idea that like it's sort of like when you're watching a football game or a baseball game or whatever, and there's this blatant and egregious foul and no one calls it, and everyone's looking going, are you kidding me, ref? You just missed this? Like I look every day at an issue and say, how did you guys not cover this? We talked about this Kamala Harris clip, right? Like Andrew Kaczynski at CNN's like, we've got the audio, we've got the written. And aside from that one clip on CNN that everyone on the right is now passing around, everybody else put blinders on and was like, I don't see this. I'm not going to pay attention to this. Or they excuse it. She's totally changed her mind since then. And it's like, wait a second. Are you guys literally letting this happen? Based on your experience in the media at these various networks, is it always been there or has it gotten worse?
I've worked so many different places. I worked at like Fox, I worked at MSNBC, I worked at like startup networks, I worked at ABC, like I've worked at so many different ones, and each network has its own problems for different reasons. But I will say, like, the big network from my experience, there was at least, like, when I first started ABC in like 2017, there was at least this like illusion of like, well, we have to have one Republican and we have to pretend to listen to her. And I do think that has shifted, because if you look at the panels on like the Sunday shows, you cannot be a Republican and be on the show, or an active conservative. You have to be like a never Trumper, or I was a Republican and now like I absolve myself and it was the worst thing I ever did and I'm the last Republican, Adam Kinzinger style. Like, you have to like embarrass yourself. Like, I reject, it's the worst thing I ever did. I'm scarred for life. I'm like, scarlet letter. Like, those are the acceptable Republicans on mainstream TV. And I'm sorry, but like, when one of your like hosts on the show I used to work with is the Republican and they're speaking at the Democratic convention, like, what am I living? Like, what are you talking about? And I find it disrespectful to I don't know what conservatives are watching these things anymore, but to Republican viewers. And I also think that there are ramifications for this. Ratings across the board for everything are way down. I don't know if you just saw this, but Jimmy Fallon's show is now being moved to 4 nights a week.
Right.
There's budget cuts everywhere. People in the industry, just like from what I know, there's rumors about like major cuts happening after the election. And maybe if you had a Republican on giving a different view on any of these places, or you weren't a late night host, just absolutely having like liberal group therapy every night, making fun of Republicans, maybe some people would watch and you'd have more advertisers and you'd have more money.
Yeah, late night in particular, it's funny because back in the day, they would rarely do politics. Now it looks like a Sunday show lineup. It's like Stephen Colbert tonight, Elizabeth Warren, AOC, and Bernie Sanders. Right? And I'm like, that's a Sunday show, not a late night show. I just, but your point, like when I watch these Sunday shows, and I always tell the audience, like, I watch it so you don't have to. It is amazing to me that you're right. You get their token Republican is always someone who hates Republicans, but they want to be able to say, oh, we had a Republican on. Mm-hmm. And that Republican hates Trump. And it's fine. Like, you can, whatever, but don't try to pretend that you're giving the audience, like, I want to know if I actually tell people all the time, I like listening to some of the Dems because I feel like it makes my argument stronger. I'm like, okay, that's how they're coming at this from. Okay, good. Then I'm going to go at it this way. They don't actually want their audience to hear a Trump perspective. It's like, what are you scared of is kind of what I always think is interesting. Like, do you not think the audience, you think if you're protecting your audience from possibly hearing somebody who supports Donald Trump because you dare not want anyone to hear that. That's at least my take on this. I think that they're scared of allowing the audience to see it.
I feel like they want to pretend it doesn't exist too, and it's not as powerful as it is in the country. I mean, we're talking about easily 50% of the American public, if not more, that at least actually, I don't know how many people, maybe it's in the 40%. I don't know. I'm messing up that data point. I'm sorry, but it's a large swath of the American public support President Trump and or are Republicans or conservatives. The thing I always try and do in my work in general is, even if I'm not a fan of Trump, I understand that I'm an avatar for conservative women in particular, and they are fans of Trump. So I try and understand it and then try and sort of like speak on their behalf and speak, especially like when it comes to policies and how easy Vice President Harris has made things and Biden before her. For me, it's like, no matter what my personal and, political disagreements with President Trump are, and there's many, obviously, the left is so extreme and psychotic that I could never like become one of these people that's like, I absolve myself from what, like, not to like name names, but there was a person from the Bulwark last night. I sent this tweet out that said, it has been hysterical for me to watch progressive liberals become Dick Cheney fans. And someone from the Bulwark was like, no, this is the path forward. And I was like, what path forward? Do you want me to become pro-choice and like open borders and like, what are you talking about? What am I supposed to give up everything I believe in? It's irrational.
But so let's just, I mean, I want to, before I want to, I got two things I want to.
So much trouble because I'm naming all names. I'm like,
no, but I want to touch on two things. First, let me just ask you this before I'll go down this path first, I guess. So when you hear someone like Liz Cheney go on and say, I'm a lifelong conservative, I believe everything that you just said, I'm all this conservative, but I want to support Kamala Harris. I go, wait a second, you literally are voting for the antithesis of every conservative principle possible. And as I said at the get-go, I don't know how you turn that page back. Once they codify all of these things, whether it's social stuff on abortion or where it comes to national security, like you can't just put that genie back in the bottle.
Yeah, or anything having to do with Israel. I mean, they're like the party of Hamas and the party of, from the river to the sea. I mean, there's so much. The thing I don't understand the most is, and like, not to give you like TMI about my life, but I have 2 kids. I'm 40 next month. Okay. But I've had 2 miscarriages and I have 2 babies, and fertility was like a big journey for me. And the one thing, I've always been pro-life. It's always been very important to me. But when you get pregnant, like for me, you just, your body starts changing immediately. And it really enhanced how I feel about life beginning at conception. And it's so important to me. It's so important to my husband. It's so important to my family. It's a big part of my faith. So what you're asking me to do is to give up something that is part of my spiritual life and my political life. And you're asking me to be for the party where Governor Walz signed a bill where he's okay with abortion happening up to 36 weeks. That's what you are asking of me. So don't come to me with like, it's about democracy and it's about whatever. We're also talking about life, babies, children. Yeah. And that's the part for me with like a Liz Cheney, I don't understand. Right. Did it never mean anything? Does it not matter to you? Like, that's the part. Does that make sense to you?
No, 100%. And the funny part is the media will go to defend the Democrats on this issue. Number one, I hope this comes up tonight. I really think that Kamala Harris needs to be asked the question, what week is too late for an abortion? Yeah. Because despite Kristen Welker and all these folks on the left in the media, it was Governor Ralph Northam, a physician from Virginia, who said, audio on WTOP here, we've got the tape, that we wait for the baby to come out, and President Trump talks about this all the time, and then we decide what to do with it. That was his words. Like, no Republican put those words in his mouth. He said it. And we have a right to say that we believe in life, and we will defend it and protect it. And they should have to defend their stance. And I think that that's your point. Like, I couldn't possibly vote for somebody that has that kind of egregious and outlandish belief about life. And so on that alone, I think that's disqualifying.
I agree. And when it comes to, like I said, people on the right who just become progressives so easily, it makes me think you either never had, these convictions were not real. They were just talking as access to power, or B, that like it doesn't matter to you. And for me, particularly the pro-life issue, I would say it's one of the things my husband and I talked about on our first date, because he was like so surprised I was pro-life.
It's like awesome first date.
Yeah. But it is, it's so, I think for women too, like it's so abhorrent. And I find the extreme radicalism on abortion on the Democrat side to be just monstrous. I mean, we don't even have, North Korea is the only other country that has abortions up to that late term. There's all over Europe, there are times and dates and whatever. I mean, I'm not for it, period. But they're so extreme. And I agree with you. I hope they call her out and make her say what week. Because it's going to be like week 37.
No. I agree. And I will be very excited. Not excited. I think that because of, like, to me, the role of the moderators, what they ask, how they ask it, the follow-up, do they fake fact check? And is this another Candy Crowley type debate where they insert themselves, or do they let them do what they're supposed to do and contrast themselves? Tonight is to me going to be just as much of a test for Kamala Harris as it is for the media. And I'm excited. We're a couple hours from this. So I hope we can continue this conversation in a little while and see what we think of where this debate shifted people. Because I'm hoping and praying that President Trump does exactly what you said. And I think so many people are willing to go over to his side and give him a shot and recognize who Kamala Harris is if tonight goes as I hope it can.
I just hope that all of the radical issues that we know that she is for are exposed. I have my hesitations just given that it's ABC hosting the event. I will say Lindsay Davis, I believe her name is.
Yeah.
I do like her. I have always found her to be pretty fair and understanding that she can't pull a Candy Crowley. Candy Crowley blew up her career and doesn't host anything anymore as a result of that debate. Not to be whatever, but she did ruin her career. So I hope that I hope it's fair. But I don't trust mainstream media at all. No. So I don't know. They could just.
We'll see. A lot to break down. Meghan, I appreciate you being with us tonight. Obviously. Yeah, and look, I want to follow up on this conversation. Let's put a date on the calendar for a follow up. Guys, real quick, we're going to be back live after the debate. Stay with us. Tune in, check it out. We'll do commentary as far as when it's done. I'll take your questions and get your feedback. We've got a big rest of the week. How this debate played out, we'll break it all down tomorrow. A lot of great guests for the rest of the week to hear about the ground game, what we're doing to win this race. Hit the subscription button, notification. We'll see you back here tomorrow. Thanks for being with us. Well, if you enjoyed this content, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more.